sense, but you could see someone slapping mud bricks with these on, maybe. I don't know. The crotches at the knee. These are actually, I really like these pants. I should show them to you guys. They're kind of like, when I wear them out in public, believe it or not, I get a lot of compliments on them. Everything from both the comfort to the appearance. And I know you're going to be all strict. And you're going to be like, oh, we don't really like them. But this spud material mixed with the... these ones are in a shape, but I don't know if you can see it. I mean, it's a terrible angle, but look. It's like a skirt pant. There's only a few issues. If you need to jump over things, you have to account for this, or you could get caught on something. If you have a ladder, you step on your own pants. See how that could happen? Yeah, just that's it. That's the main things. So we're gonna make some stuff. There's a strange smell in my fridge. I don't know where it's coming from. It's not horribly bad. What is it? No, I really don't know. What is that? It's like a slight... I don't know. Like the burrito in the wind story. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to go next door and we're going to pick this while we're talking. How to choose your next cult leader.
First, easy steps.
Okay, so there's at least just the 3 main types of cult leaders I'm going to cover, with some additions. So the first is the sadist. The second is all of the meat handlers, though. The second is the quasi-sadist, the temporary transient sadist, the somewhat possessed Oracle of Delphi one, and then I'll give you a great example. So, and then you've got the Black Swan, right? So, if you knew your TV shows, or if you're serious about this topic, all you're going to do is just type these things in, and you'll look them up, and you'll be like, oh, okay. So Colonel Broyles is a great example of a Black Swan. Colonel Broyles is a character from the Fringe series. It's like a sci-fi series. And he's held hostage all the time by the fact that he is a charismatic person and everything, but like he can have his arm twisted over the best will of the people. And you keep him in office with the shady shit that goes on only because Colonel Broyles is being threatened all the time with what would happen if not. It's kind of like the guy in Gotham. Do we know, right into the stove, do we know the name of that captain that Batman, he would put the signal out and Batman would come? But people would be like, Commissioner, you're not really supposed to get help from Batman. And he's like, but I do what I have to do around here. Right? But the commissioner is kept in line within his area in a Black Swan. He's basically kind of like trying, you know? So, let's look in the bowl. It's the old creamy chicken and dumplings. So, anyhow. So that's your Black Swan. The Black Swan is like, he's really not, like, he has some charisma, but it's only being used because he's in desperation. Like, desperate straits. And the threat, it's like, this is how, like, back in the old days, they would work with some royal children, is like, some royal children had to be kept in line, not by hurting them, but by threatening to hurt another child in front of them. So, like, there's some royal children back in the day, there's stories written about it, where their family had to get them in line, and they couldn't get them in line by beating them, and then they would have lost their heir, and it wouldn't have been able to, you know, it just wasn't going to work out at the time. And so that what they would do instead is they'd go get a whipping boy, which is they'd go find a squire, a child, someone who looked innocent, And then they would start to whip and beat and mistreat that child until the princeling acted as he was supposed to. Now that is a black swan. They have a long and formidable history like the other two types that I'm going to address. But they always have handlers. They always have to be kept in line. And it's the threat of the welfare of the people that does it. I don't know. Some people would say the amazing atheist could even be a black swan to a degree. Some people would call Doherty one. A black swan is someone who, it depends. You have to get to know them. Are they doing it because if they don't, they're afraid of what will happen to a group of people? Are they being held hostage emotionally? Oh, Tim McCain. When Lindsey Graham said that Senator McCain was a real patriot and that he did what he did for the country, and that guy started crying on stage, I suspect McCain, he took falls and took votes that made him not popular enough to get in office. I think it's because he was ultimately a black swan, and he served his role still well at a high level, a lot of people would say. Now, does that mean he's perfect and that he didn't do didn't do stuff like other people? I'm not saying he didn't do any other stuff. I'm just saying that I think it's possible that the man was kept in line by his love of the country and his patriotism. Like, he had a patriotism for the United States that was for his guys in his land, that he felt strongly about, and I believe that it may have kept Senator McCain in line. Why would he run with Sarah Palin too? Look at Sarah Palin for a minute. Think about it. So, I don't know. He did potentially. So let's think of another one. Nobody's probably going to ever agree with me on this one, and I'm not sure. I think Jimmy Carter was some kind of hybrid. I don't know what the fuck he was. We're going to come back to him later. I'm still working on that one. But, okay, so that's your first type of leader, your black swan. Second type, sadist. Now, you have to have handlers for the sadist, too. But instead of threatening other people, the handlers are going to just make sure that they're like a cleanup crew, right? You got to have a cleanup crew that takes lots of pictures, and he knows, that if anything ever happens, he's going to get thrown, he just has to stay in line. He's a sadist. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. People will cover it up. And he knows he's being used as a figurehead, but he's just having the time of his life. So he's basically a sadist, and the bigger the light, the darker the shadow that is cast. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So that's another type. Now there's another type of sadist, okay? And I call it the temporary or the transient sadist. This is a kind of person that if you read Annika Lucas's story and you see how she was brought into the Dutch network and she was family to Rockefeller and he brought her under his wing and was going to turn her into a rock star, one of the Rockefellers, and when she's able to talk about it on news shows and shit, and she's perfectly alive and healthy and in good state, so you have to ask yourself, what happened there? Well, we're going to get into that. She explains that at one point when she was younger, they taught her, she was going to be a rock star. Go watch her story if you want. I posted some things in my comment section about it. But basically, she succeeded in, doing all the things that you're supposed to do to be a rock star. She did them, which means she already crossed those lines before she was, 13 or 15 years old. But as soon as she got around normal people, she would snap back into being normal. And so when you have the ones that only act that way when they're completely surrounded, completely engulfed in a culture, they can never be away from those people, or they'll actually go, oh, fuck, what was that? They may freak out, or they may just disassociate and not remember that it happened, whatever. Those people can do stuff. I'll give you an example. Shara7, I believe that channel, if you go to her channel, you'll see what I'm talking about. She's a temporary sadist. I'm not saying she's killing no babies or anything like Annika Lucas, but she talks boldly and brazenly about narcissism and embracing it. but I've been watching her channel closely. And she has the symptoms of dissociative disorder, and I checked people for it by watching their eyelids. Chase Hughes is a huge YouTuber. Watch his eyelids and his skin color when he talks. That guy has been, he trains people to do undercover, like, agents to shit. Like, it's been done to him because his eyes change shape all the time. Annika's eyes change shape too sometimes. Not as much as Chase's that I've seen. It depends on who she's with, though, I think. And so, let's see, like, so I'm looking at the eye shape. So Shara 7, her face and her eye shape, there's some certain musculature changes that happen that are not, it could happen from day to day. And it's, like, people will call it mirror magic on channels, YouTube channels and stuff, but, like, I think it's that she has a transient narcissism sadism, and that's why she's operating as a leader at this time. Because she's in a rich neighborhood, surrounded by people with a certain kind of mindset, or middle class, certain kind of mindset, and when she's in that neighborhood, she puts out a certain kind of videos. When she lived in the middle class neighborhood, she put out some other kind of videos. They were very different. And the reason why I know that that's what's going on with her, in my opinion, or, no, I don't say no. That's the reason why I posit with like a 90% or more that she is that kind is because she said that she's not able to go to grocery stores or places where the people distress her because it's just way too, she just doesn't go at all, she can't do it. A true sadist could walk into a grocery store, fucking hands down, no problem. A transient sadist is having a panic attack in the grocery store because she feels strong and mighty in a neighborhood of strong and mighty people and is speaking as their spokesperson without knowing it psychically. But when she's in the ghetto, she's having, where people are like, don't agree with everything, her identity begins to collapse, which triggers a nervous system reaction in part from amygdala hijack. She's going to have herself with some anxiety, and she's going to have to get out of there because she's only a transient sadist. A real sadist could go anywhere. Real narcissist could go anywhere, Shara. The real narcissist would only not go to the grocery store if there was some other strategic reason why they couldn't go. Safety or some other strategy reason. They wouldn't just not be able to go to the store. The real sadist would not be afraid of that store. It's because it's her handlers panicking too, because if she goes in that store and her identity crumbles and she gets another one for long enough, they might not get her back. And that's what you see a lot of times when you see one-hit wonders on the radio. I speculate that that's the same thing. They were transient sadists. They were at the right place, the right time. They popped out something, and when they got back around normal people, they were done with that shit. I'll give you an example. There's a rapper, Joey Badass. He put out a rap called Survival Skills or Survival Tactics, and it is one of the more catchy raps if you want to listen to it. Niggas don't want wall, I'm a Martian with an army of Spartans. But I'm not even saying it right. Niggas don't want wall, I'm a Martian with an army of Spartans. Sparring with a knife in a missile fight, get your intel right. Right? Well, he says that after he did that song, that he basically had a nervous breakdown and he had to go to some Zen Buddhist place and meditate with monks like hours and hours every day and have one person who just sat there with him. And like he has to meditate all the time now or else he just loses his mind. That is a transient sadist. He took part in it and then he got in another neighborhood and he was like, oh, holy fuck. Like then he ran off to the Buddhist camp and hid. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's another kind. So you got the black swan, the sadist, who's into his image, and knows that he eats, thrives, and lives by it, and his place in it, and under it, and everything else in that little matrix. And so you've got the sadist, you've got the quasi-sadist, and you've got the black swan. That's your main archetypes for your cult leader. So say like you were going to start your cult tomorrow. What would you do? What are the upsides and the downsides of each type? If you get the sadist, you better have the money to do some cover-up. He's going to be expensive. The quasi-sadist is real cheap. You got to move him into a rich neighborhood. The black swan, though, they're fraught with dangers. A lot of times they end up not living that long. What if Abraham Lincoln? We don't know. Who knows? I think they tend to age. It depends. See, Carter lived so long, and Abraham aged so well that it confuses me about Carter, and I'm still analyzing him. But what I'm trying to say here is just that the downsides. Let's look at our downsides. Potential downsides. The black swan is cheaper. You can pluck them off the streets. But in terms of how much is it going to cost you? Yeah, promotion, yeah, this, yeah, that. How much training did you have to put in? Someone else probably did the training for you. Their family did it. All you have to do is find out where the knobs turn, where they're located at. You only need them for a short time. They're pretty expendable, you know. They usually end up not being around forever, and then you can use their death as a political thing and make it super patriotic too, you know. Some people think Lindsey Graham was assassinated, I heard. And then, so you got that. You have that option. And then you have, some people are like, I don't know, man. And then, okay, so then you've got the quasi sadist, the person who can be sadistic under certain circumstances. And then, but you have those ones. Okay, a good example of that one is the regime leader from The Regime, played by Kate Winslet, the quasi sadist. As long as she has her handlers around her every second, she's fine. But if she finds herself alone in a corner of the castle without her handlers, she'll start getting OCD. She'll start to get tormented. She has all kinds of problems. She has to be surrounded all the time. They love her, though, because when they look at her, they see themselves. And they love the figgy pudding, the brattiness. But you got to keep them under wraps all the time, though, if you're going to do that. They get out of your sight. They might go wandering the hillside picking daisies with a foundling. I don't know what could happen. And so a lot of families have someone like this, some disassociative in their family who goes along with the parties, but then the minute they're out, they forget that it happened and they're wandering off in the daisies. They can't keep it consistent. So, unless they're surrounded. A real sadist, he has to be really concerned with his image. If he's not vested in it, in his brand, it's going to be really hard to control him. If they like their kids, for whatever reason, even if it's not a pure one, as we put it, like they could get controlled, right? Like Eminem. So he would be an example of a sadist. It's like, is he a full sadist leader, or is he a sadist, or is he a quasi-sadist? The answer is he could be a quasi-sadist. That could be why he has the suicide attempts. That would make sense. It's possible. Those are the ones that are so disassociated that they're just like, they don't have the fully formed anterior cingulate cortex to experience the suffering of others, but they can get caught up in the fun of being on the other team just as much as they can get caught up in the fun of being on your team. So, you got to keep it in mind all the time. And so, in a sudden moment of glee, they could jump off a lemming cliff, and you don't know what's going to happen. So, let's see. Now, it's like, then what kind of cult leader was Charles Manson, right? Like, I'm sure everybody thinks too. They're like, and where would you put Charles Manson? He was kind of like, I honestly think he's kind of in the second category, the quasi-sadist. But, he's also a hobo, though. So it's kind of like, yeah, I think. But no, wait, I take it back. There was something about Manson. I think he was part snake charmer, possibly. Right? So, like, he was part snake charmer, or he was morphing and using the snake charming skills of someone nearby. So if he was using his snake charming skills in someone nearby, then he's a quasi-sadist. If he was charming on his own, then he's a hybrid. A hybrid between a guru, a hobo, and a quasi-sadist. Alright, to the next door land, where life is beautiful all the time. Yeah, well, if he is a quasi-sadist, is an excellent example of a shifting skill set, shifting dispositions, couldn't hold on to the money, right? Wasn't willing to do the long-term investment. Now, there is a difference there because some quasi-sadists can hold on to money. What do you think the difference is? He went into the grocery stores. She's not. There's could be other differences. He may be hybrid snake charmer as well. I don't know. Snake charmer, it's another class. I don't know if they're snake charmers or if they're part snake. But basically, they have a different relationship with snakes. And they can put people in hypnotic trance. Very easy. Let's see. I need the toilet paper. I know. That was terrible. Oh, dude. Don't be going anywhere. We're having issues. I had a feeling that things were coming out of my pocket. And I stopped myself. So, like when you're narrowing things down, like what's the difference between Manson and other ones, you may want to compare him to like, say, Ted Bundy. Because Bundy and the Night Stalker could draw a crowd after the fact, but when they were in the midst of it, they were pretty a loner. So there's differences between him and them, you know? And so we'll talk about it more later. I'm going to eat my soup now.